There we go. Let's kick the tires.
This is the Okayest Hunter podcast. Never pass on shooter bucks, because that's just meat in the freezer. It's your tag, you hunt how you want. This is Okayest Hunter.
Welcome back to the Okayest Hunter podcast. Coming at you from Oconomowoc, Wisconsin this week. We took a hiatus last week. I was at SHOT Show. Things were crazy. I think you and Derek were going to take over.
And
life is just sick. Wild, dude.
Yeah.
You were really sick. You were down for the count.
And I'm still suffering, so I apologize up front for all the coughing that might occur.
Yeah, and so the mute button's a little far away for your reach. So I can mute it for you.
It's good stuff. Anyway.
We're presented by Nosler. They're our presenting partnership. It was really cool to see them at SHOT. Got a nice dinner together. Got to hang out at their booth. Got to drink all the Red Bull and talk about some things for this year. So very exciting stuff for sure. Check out nosler.com. Be sure to use code OHP. Save yourself the money while you're at it. Just because, why wouldn't you? And OHP is really easy to remember. You know what that stands for? It stands for Okayest Hunter Podcast.
Simple
just
enough.
To make it clear. I'm Eric, one of the hosts of this show, one of three. We got Mr. Greg Tubbs over here.
Thank you.
And typically Derek is with us, but his wife is sick. So he's out
Stuff
tonight.
is going around.
Just how it goes this time of year. It's crazy. We have other partners. Spartan Forge. Use code OHP. I can't even say my own code now. They just added new features again recently. I did see Bill at SHOT, so it was good to see him for a little bit. We chugged beer together. That was nice. We're hanging outside the Christensen booth talking with some other folks, and that was nice. Latitude, another great partner of ours, they just put up a note that better buy the Method 2 while you can, because
you're seeing the taillights of that
they've
product.
improved it, so the next gen is coming out.
Be interesting to see how much they improved it, because it was a pretty stellar piece the way it was.
I did get to see it at ATA. I did get to see the prototype that they had there.
So
it's nice.
There's things that could change on it yet.
Yeah. It is not like a departure from what it was. It's just there's some improvement on it. So anyway, I'm mostly just excited about their suspenders.
Yes.
So it doesn't feel like I'm pulling my pants up all the time.
Well, and it'll do a lot of things for you. You know, it's another...
And it's got the bino harness thing, which I missed from having the tree stand safety system.
I would really like to have that, because the ones that I currently have, it's like a piece of elastic. It just, no matter how much you tighten that damn thing, it always loosens up. Mm-hmm. And it's, they start up here on my chest, they end up down at my belly button and my waist. When I'm all said and done, it's kind of annoying. So
it is nice to have it right there.
Right there.
I mean, I know people have pouches. There's a lot of ways to skin that cat, but that's a nice piece of it. Shed season is right around the corner. So if you haven't already checked out Rack Hub, or if you don't know who they are, what that means, go to rackhub.com, use code OHP, save 15%. But they have, they're adding more products throughout this calendar year. They have over the last several months, but basically, any way that you can think to mount antlers as decor and hang your memories on the wall in new, interesting, exciting, and visually appealing ways is what Rack Hub is all about. So, good pals of ours, and make sure to check those guys out. I think I got everybody. Bear is a partner. I'll get through all these things. I still never know if this is the best way to do it in the beginning or somewhere in the middle or whatever. But I shot their flagship bow last season. Mm-hmm. I killed a deer with it. I'm pretty happy with that bow. I'm happy with them as a brand, especially just their heritage, who they are, what they represent. Getting a bow in everyone's hand means that they stay true to their mission around their price point. So it is approachable. They make bows for youth. They have bows that youth can use all the way up into full adulthood if you wanted to. Lots of customization. So we did an episode with them last season about their 2025 bow lineup, and they have a lot to offer.
Yeah, they're really a legacy brand for the working outdoors man and women.
Yep.
It's, it's a brand that's been around forever. It was meant to get anybody into bow hunting or archery that wanted to.
Yep.
And they have a pretty nice lineup of products from every price range.
Yeah. We do have a few other partnerships on deck. We're just solidifying contracts and deals and renewing the ones that we have and so forth. So, very enthusiastic about what's to come. I think we're going to have a lot of fun with it. And I really do mean fun. Like, it's going to be a creative license to just do all sorts of crazy stuff. So all stuff that's very well aligned. We've also turned down a number of folks because it's a reach or doesn't fit, or we've been asked, like, it's an easy layup, just take the money, that kind of stuff. And it's a no for me, dog. Like,
and I'm glad we said no to those companies because they don't fit our demographic.
We have to be mindful of you guys, the listeners and gals. I think that's important. At some point, there's a diminishing return if we just start stuffing everything down your throat. But everyone we've worked with for a long time. We've worked with Bear since a
couple of years now.
3-4 years. We've worked with Latitude since 2019, Spartan Forge since 2019, Rat Cub, this will be their second year, but though I've known TJ in other endeavors, so like not new to working with him himself, but the brand is onto, like, we have these partnerships that seem to last a long time. And that's exciting. Nosler, this will be their second whole year with us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good stuff. So anyway, I just want to get that part out of the way. And today's topic is the decline of woodsmanship against or contrast against the rise of AI in hunting. And you might not think AI plays a really big role in hunting, but let me tell you, I think it does, and it has been, and it will continue to do so.
I can see it as a learning tool to shorten the learning curve. But at the end of the day, and you might have seen a product at SHOT Show that might say otherwise, it's still not going to kill your deer for you 100%. It's still not the hunter pulling the trigger or tapping the release.
That is my probably biggest, like, if I were to have a defensive stance, that would be it.
Not that I'm defending AI, because I'd be fine without it. Just give me my basic tools and let me go play in the woods.
Well, I think that because I knew I had you tonight and not Derek, I do think of you in my mind as someone that actually does possess some woodsmanship skills, like authentically genuine. You can identify different trees just by digging in your brain. You don't have to pull out some sort of app. You are you're looking at the terrain, you're reading the signs, you're digging in deep, you're a lot of boots on the ground stuff, but you're really using a lot of woodsmanship to put these pieces together. Not to say Derek isn't, he is.
No, that guy definitely is.
He's not here right now. So,
no.
And I don't think he identifies plants as easily as you do. This is an aspen. You can tell by the way it is. Like, that's about as far as my woodsmanship goes. That's a white oak and that's a red oak. And you can tell by, I don't know. And those things are important, like, to consider. And where vegetation comes together, I know these things. They don't have to be dangerous, but I know nothing when it actually comes down to it. The best lesson I got was from my daughter: leaves of 3, let it be. Mm-hmm. Like, she learned that in her
not
first
good
grade
for toilet
class.
paper at all.
So, like, I got that one down. Other than that, I don't know. But there's AI in, like, range finders and scopes and binoculars, and even on archery sites now. You got the Garmin product. That was the first one. There's more now. We're just automatically doing these things. I think the argument with some of that stuff is if it's reliable and dependable and is working, I look at it this way. It's like your car. If you have a manual roll down window, which I don't even know if those exist anymore in cars, versus an automatic,
I don't even know if they're in work trucks, to be honest with you.
The more things that can fail, the more things could fail. Like, I don't know how to say what I'm saying. Like, if there's a
bigger margin of error.
Yeah, if it fails, then you have nothing to use.
No.
Now I can't roll my window down at all. If my Garmin runs out of battery, now I have no way to range at all, or to, like, put the sight pin on the animal. Now, without
practicing a scenario
where that happens,
you don't have that ability.
But if I have my pins, let's just say, like, the I don't know if they make them this way anymore, but that little tube of light that comes through the little what is the material?
It's fiber optic.
The fiber optic tube that lets light in. Let's just say that I'm one of my old bows that shattered or broke or they brittled up or whatever.
Yep.
On an old side pin. And then, I mean, I could still shoot. I didn't need that. It just helped gather light, but it wasn't fundamental to my shooting. It was still doable. Maybe not in low light as good, but
No.
But if I had a new piece of technology and it failed because it's too cold or I didn't charge the battery or I didn't replace it or something like that, now I have no way to operate it.
One would be very frustrating because you spent, we'll say $1,500 or more on, which is basically
that's a good point.
A boat anchor. So I'd be pretty upset with that. If you don't want bad things to go wrong to expensive stuff, and it can happen, and it more than likely will at some point, stick with the basic cheap stuff. Use your fundamentals, the basic fundamentals to learn how to shoot. What's funny is I'm more and more drawn to shooting a stick and string than I ever have been.
You're getting to that age.
Yeah. It's
too,
right away, age me out. No, but it's the truth. It's just like, I don't want to dink around with all that extra crap. Just like, can't I just pull the bow back and shoot the damn thing?
I just want
I just want to shoot it.
Yeah. It's like, I just want a phone that calls people.
And the more I shoot it, the more automatic it'll be. I won't even need to worry about lining up a peep sight with
You're
a
right.
pin.
It's super light. My cousin rocks a long one. He just wraps around his torso.
Yeah.
Slings around his body and goes out.
Carry your quiver with 4 arrows in it, and when you shoot them and you lose them, you're done. You go home and you build new ones. You build more.
Be a good reason to listen to the Boyer podcast right there.
It certainly would. But keeping things more simplistic is a pretty nice thing, and yeah, you practice more often with it, but that's just how you remain vigilant with it.
Yeah. I mean, people that have listened along to some degree and heard the deer recovery of last season, I had a drone company come out. I could have called a dog tracker.
Yep.
I called the drone company. It was dark. I figured, I don't have a lot of time. I'm in a pretty suburban area. And, boy, I was pretty happy to use that technology.
Yeah, the technology was there to...
Gave me a hell of a lot of peace of mind. But
it gives you more peace of mind at a cost, right? I mean, that drone was not a cheap date. Not even just to hire the guy, but for that guy to buy that piece of equipment and maintain it however that looks, replacing batteries every so many hours or whatever that looks like.
Gas to drive to 20 different sites a night when people are calling you to track deer.
Yeah, all hours of the night. It's like being an on-call service guy. You have to go.
Yep. He was really good about if there's another deer that wasn't deer we're after, it was fractions of seconds that he would flash a deer and move on.
Yep.
He wasn't, and there was a big deer that he flashed in an open field, and we're like, whoa!
Nope, can't do
it. And he
it.
moved right on.
Yep.
We're like, you should go back, joking. He's like, not happening, fellas.
No.
So he was really good about that boundary of, that's not what we're here for. Those flashes of seconds, I can't unsee those. I still saw it. I still had a concept of what was where, how it was all coming together. That's not AI. There is AI componentry baked into the software tools of that stuff. I don't know that anyone's using it. I have no proof points of that whatsoever, but I know that does exist as a technology feature, that it can interpret terrain and help distinguish bedding, travel corridor, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, AI has learned the way of the whitetail.
Yeah. So in one breath, it's like, should we have these things, like these drones, or there's this ethics that come into play. So if the Garmin is better at ranging a deer for me than my dumbass, and if it works and I shoot it and it hits the target right where it needs to go, now I got a dead deer. Or if I didn't recover it, great, and I could get a drone and now I recovered it. This is not so black and white. It's like we want our cake and we want to eat it too.
There's a lot of gray area with all of this stuff.
Knock it until you knock it until you need it. It's like my daughter's like, I'm not going to eat that. I don't like it. Well, how do you know you don't like it? You've never even eaten it before. Well, I don't. When are you going to try it? You could take a hard stance with this. I'm never going to call on a drone. I'm never going to use this Garmin thing. And that might be true, but then it goes back to, well, maybe you should be practicing more and not being so dependent on this stuff. If you practice that much, you wouldn't have to depend on the technology, depend on your own skill set. And that's kind of the argument with the woodsmanship. If you can practice more with these things and get the skill set yourself, You don't need the technology. And that, I think that's kind of where, I don't know, it's in 20 years, we'll look back on this episode. Never, maybe we will. It'll be 2025. Like, wow, we thought we were like really into the shit then. Like, wait till 21 more years. Like, how many more regulations and laws are going to exist to block this stuff out? I think at some point it gets to be too much and it starts to question fair chase.
Right. Well, and look at, it's a hot button topic to use cellular trail cameras, right? I mean,
in certain states, right?
In states out west, it's no more. You're not doing it.
Yeah.
So, that was a piece of technology. Did it kill deer? Sure it did.
I think it definitely helped aid in the ability to do so.
Yep, it aided for people to know that the deer was there, for one, to pursue it. I still wouldn't put all my eggs in that basket. Then again, I haven't gone and killed giants either. So using the technology,
you're not. Yeah.
It's just, not it.
What did Derek say here? It's going to pop up on the screen. Derek said, "Did you guys see the new live 6-zone trail cam from Stealth Cam? I would be wrong. I could be wrong, but I think it was them. Pretty wild. Definitely feels like another great reason to ban trail cams." Well, what was it doing?
6-zone cam from Stealth Cam.
What does that mean?
Does that mean basically 6 different cameras?
So,
or
we haven't seen it. That's what.
No, man, I haven't seen it. So we'll have to have a discussion about that later.
Leave it to me to go to ATA and shot and not have a clue what's going on.
Well, and I don't know if that was even necessarily at shot. I'm sure you saw other pieces of technology at shot that led to question a little bit, some ethics, right?
I don't know. I saw some robots and shit.
Robots. Now, were they there as demos walking around?
There's like demos walking down aisles.
Did they serve you a Bush Light, or what?
They probably could have. No, I was just in meetings the whole time. So like, I feel bad. People are like, "Oh, what'd you see?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm not a YouTuber."
I think optics are probably a big one. Night vision, especially with predator hunting.
Yeah,
and probably the ability to range. You got night vision, range, and everything, and it does all the automatic adjusting for you. I think that's a pretty interesting piece of tech. Now, for removing predators, that's great. But I'm sure there's somebody
some
out
poaching
there.
Piece of shit.
Yeah, there's people out there that'll poach with that stuff.
Yeah, that's it. Unfortunately, someone was always going to take advantage. So Derek's talking about it right here. You got up on the screen. It said it's a 360-degree trail cam.
Okay.
So
yeah, and Moultrie had kind of something similar. I don't think it was 360. It might have been 180 or something like that. But they had one where the lens would actually move. The sensor would pick up the heat and track and then move. But I would imagine that thing ate batteries like crazy.
Well, there's the Insta360 camera that's now kind of I don't know if they're competing with GoPro or what that. I doubt it's gonna take a long time for anyone to take market share from them, but it's a really cool camera. I see a lot of people using the 360 camera where you can zoom into still a really good resolution at a regular 1080 by or 1920 by 1080, but it's got that 360 view. This sounds great. Like, here's the thing. Some guys love their gear and their tech, and there's people that will certainly take advantage of it to the letter of the law that they can. And you can't tell me that it wouldn't be cool to use a 360 trail cam, because now you're going to worry about, did the deer walk behind the tree?
And they do.
Of course they know. Now you freaking know.
All you got to do is walk around that tree, and you will find deer sign on the backside of that camera, to the left of it, to the right of it, just out of field of view. Yeah. You always will. And
this stuff's just so, it's starting to, there's something called Moore's Law. If anyone knows what that is, maybe I'll do a Google search and just try and enlighten some people here. Moore's Law of technology. Basically, it's talking about technology lives on an exponential curve. So it's talking about the fact that, for the longest time, we've been on a very linear line of how technology reaches adoption. So like when the telephone came out, it took a lot of time for it to reach full adoption by the masses. When the automobile came out, it was like 1913 to 1923 or something like that. In 10 years, it was like full adoption. Now, when things come out, they get full adoption like very fast, within a year or less. And a lot of that's because of the smartphone and the internet and all that stuff. And so what he's stating is, at some point, our ability to adopt technology is going to be outpaced by new technology coming out. So I'm not going to buy the iPhone 20 because tomorrow a 21 might come out.
Right.
So you get this new paralysis that happens where you don't want to buy stuff because like and so then we can't even learn it as fast as it's coming out. We're starting to see that with AI right now. I don't even know everything AI can do. It's happening so fast. I can't even learn it faster than it's evolving. We're being outpaced by the rate of change. So because of the rate of adoption and the rate of change, the legal system is a pretty slow moving entity. And when you think about government and bureaucracy and DNRs and things like that, Department of Natural Resources, their ability to like write laws for 360 camera as a cell cam, it's going to take a minute to get there.
Yeah.
But it has to call into question ethics, fair chase. All of these things have to start to come into play. And so like this happened with Bird Scooter. They came out and they were adopted faster than the cities could regulate them. And they had to be regulated because people are dying. They're getting hit by cars because there's no infrastructure to handle the damn scooters. Now it's a thing. Now they're out there. Now people use them. I don't know if they're called Lime or I've never used one of these damn things, but
they're
at
all over.
some point the government is going to have, not just for a money grab, I know that's part of it, but for also for things like infrastructure. What is this doing? What are the implications? How are we understanding the impact on the ecosystem and the habitat and the animals and the herd and the hunters? And how is that impacting the number of deer shot and killed in a season? Is it going to go up exponentially when we start putting 360 cams everywhere? I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, we got cell cameras out there, and there's still, according to our Department of Natural Resources, too many deer.
Mm-hmm.
So, did it kill the deer? No, it didn't kill the deer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it did. It's still. I'll leave it to me to use all the technology in the world. And like still not get it done. So I find that to be a bit humorous, but like Spartan Forge has deer movement predictability, and arguably this is objectively true. I think they're doing it better than anyone else because the competition is using just people's input. I forget the guy that talks on behalf of the other app. That's Jeff Sturgis. I'm not discrediting him, but like he doesn't have years of collar data that he's tracked and pitted against collision data and moon phase data and weather data and all this other stuff, and then put on a map and had a machine learn it for several years and then tell us what the prediction of that is. I think Spartan Forge is the best one. It's not killing deer for me. I saw one of their ads on Facebook, a Spartan Forge ad. I look at the comments. One dude's like, "This is the worst thing I've ever seen. This is gonna, you're making it too easy. You're taking all the woodsmanship out of it." I think that's where this idea originally came from. I read that ad and I was like, "No, it's making it easier, but it's not like better satellite imagery isn't killing deer."
No.
We're just obsessed with maps.
Yeah, we love maps.
People that like maps more than hunting, it's just hunting's the way to look at the maps.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. But how do you learn more woodsmanship? I picked up all these books and I'm reading them. I'm reading all these
books. Books are one thing, but
you got to still get out there.
You got to get out there. It's on a quick, hey, I wonder about this piece of property kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can pull up the app and Spartan Forge it and look at all the topographical. But if it's a flat area, you can topographically map that area all you want. You're not going to see where all the deer trails are.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to see, hey, there are better mass trees over here. I didn't realize that. Or maybe it's old mapping that doesn't show some of that, that grove of trees is even there at all,
mm-hmm.
Or anymore. Maybe it was wiped out. Maybe they had it logged. Maybe they had a fire in that marsh and it took everything out. You don't know. So people will get tired of hearing it, but the truth of the matter is you need to get out and you need to walk it, and you need to walk it often.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be like, I got a few places I haven't been in a couple of years. I should go walk them. I should go walk them real soon here. But I don't want to just because of they're going to be wet. Chances are I'll go in over my hips in some spots. They won't be a whole lot of fun to get into. I don't have to risk busting any deer out because season is just about to close here at the end of the week, and I'm not deer hunting, so it doesn't matter. Weather's nice, so it's great for walking. Everybody else is thinking about ice fishing yet, getting out and doing some fishing, as would I. But it's a good time of year to take a walk because right now all that sign that was laid in October and November has been pretty well preserved.
Mm-hmm.
And now you can go and look at it. You can interpret it. You can see that some of the rubs are some rubs might just be freshly made yet too, because those younger bucks have moved into different areas. They're staged up in a different area now. They've followed the food, the winter pattern. So it's a good time of year to go look at all that stuff. And that's how you learn.
This is along the same vein, but I struggle with the interpretation of what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
If you don't know, not so much if you don't know what you're looking for, you're not going to find it. But if you don't have enough experience with hunting seasons and how sign gets laid down and what to be looking for, and I still don't to the nth degree. But
you have this right here in your hand. Yeah. It takes pretty good pictures and videos. And if nothing else, you use that. And when you're bored someday, or you're sitting at home and everybody's quiet, kids are fast asleep, and it's a great tool to use to review. You know, how did I approach that area, and what, you know, for instance, what side of the tree are those rubs on? Mm-hmm. You know, I bumped into this rub line, you know, and shoot, those rubs are facing the crop fields or a water source or whatever. So what time of day is that deer using that?
It isn't that the more years I hunt, the more fine-tuned it becomes. I remember when I first started hunting, I was like, oh, a rub. And I was like, that's deer sign. We're good. We're in the stuff. I didn't have the wherewithal or the experience to know, like, is that a signpost rub? Is that a rub line? Or as Derek likes to call now, which is not the same thing, a separate thing altogether, rub cluster. Is that part of a rub cluster? And then, to your point, which direction, which side of the tree is being rubbed would indicate which direction the deer is walking. And if that's the direction he's walking, then you can figure out where did he come from.
Yeah.
And when did that sign happen? Was it at night or in the morning? You know, where the track's coming to and going from. There's usually several paths or tracks or trails out of a bed. Which one is for which wind?
Right. And that's
like, there's so much to dissect.
There's a lot to dissect, and you're never going to get it right every time.
And I think that's
it's going to put you in the ballpark, and you just got to.
Yeah, of course.
You got to take a swing at the pitch.
And every now and then you get it. You pull a Jake Bush, and you're like, he came down this path at 7:42, and I picked the right one. For me, that's going to be a bit of a gamble. Like,
right.
If I can even get to that point, but that's woodsmanship. It's taking this time to be out there, put boots on the ground.
We all have it. You just got to keep refining it
and continue to like take it in. And then it's kind of like you sit at a craps table long enough. And I was just in Vegas, so of course this is my reference. And I can't game that at all, but if I'm watching long enough, I can start to see like how the bets are being placed, where they're being placed, what this bet means, how you play the pass line or the not pass line, or how you play the field or whatever it is. And then eventually you get to shake the dice and you get to play and you get to place your bet. At some point, you got to go shake your dice, play the damn game, and go place your bet and throw a sit at a spot and actually hunt it and see, did you interpret it well enough, long enough to like have it work out? And I think, we could all agree, if you follow us, I've gotten pretty good at placing some decent bets and having it show up.
So now you were learning.
But I just, the dice didn't roll the number I needed that time.
Right. You were just a little bit off. So it went from being a kill hunt to an observation hunt.
That's what I'm going to start doing. They'll just be like, I wasn't really hunting. That was an observation hunt when I didn't get that buck. I'll just start categorizing my hunts to observation sits.
Go into it as every hunt is going to be an observation hunt until you kill.
Oh, wow. Well, that's
I don't know what else to
What's your goal for next season, Eric? I'm going to do
a lot of
7 observation hunts, and maybe I'll do 1 real hunt.
Yeah. Well, that's might be what it takes. It might take 20 observation hunts. You might just be jumping too many properties,
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing to get kind of lost on. If you don't really know what's going on, maybe you need to stick it out on one property for a good majority of the year,
Yeah, when are you going to transplant yourself to a new area? You've been honed in on that one property. Well, and it's dynamic. It changes.
I hate to say it's kind of it's easy money, but it is. My goal is to help that landowner take deer off the landscape because there are so many. And
I'm talking about the public land you're messing with.
The public land, I don't know. I thought about switching it up and going to the driftless and go and find something different to hunt. Mm-hmm. Just get out of the swamp for a little bit, or out of the marsh or the field edge stuff, and hunt a totally different hunk of terrain. I wouldn't be opposed to it. That's for sure.
Well, that's figuring out new land is also part of the fun, I think.
It is part of the fun.
It's totally different. What works somewhere doesn't work somewhere else. I don't know, different deer herds, different deer terrain, different.
But yeah, I mean, going from the Northwoods, I hunted Northwoods during gun season. I learned a little bit more about how to hunt topography. Now, granted, it's not as crazy of topography as the driftless area is by that standard, but it's it is definitely different. You know, things are more food driven, thicker edges and clear cuts and all that fun stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I found a little bit of success, you know, made plenty of memories and filled a few deer tags and brought home venison in years that were pretty lean. And then I've had plenty of years too after that where just was striking out. You know, maybe that piece of property, that piece of public that I had hunted a few years in a row, they logged off and new pressure came, you know, more people were hunting it. They allowed ATVs in it, whatever. I mean, things change. And if you don't get up and scout it to see that, you know, you leave it alone for 5 years and just come up and decide, well, I'm going to try and hunt, you know, the island off of whatever road and back in this thick stuff. And you get in there and they must have had a windstorm. The trees are gone. There's no trees left on this island.
Mm-hmm.
It's thicker than it ever was. And yeah, the deer are using it. You can see sign, you can see trails. But they're not using it the same. So now what do? Do I hang in here? Well, if there's no place to hang, I can't get a vantage point to make shots in here, ethical shots. There's no point in going in here. So guess what? I'm starting over. It happens.
Mm-hmm.
You got to just keep rolling with it. And either you're going to succeed and get lucky, or you're just, you know, it's going to be a continuous education and a lot of alone time to think about it.
I like the idea of new properties, but sometimes old is new. And as you evolve as a hunter, maybe you have, let's say you have 5 to 10 seasons under your belt since a property you hunted in your first 5 years. So maybe year 2 you hunt a property and you haven't hunted that property since year 2. Now you're in your 10th year of hunting or 10th season. As a hunter, you've learned so much stuff. You now have all these skills, tools, thought processes. You've learned all this shit. It's kind of like reading a book for the second time. You're going to read the book way differently than the first time you did. A, because you've covered it before, so you have an opinion of it, but you've also evolved so much. So now you could probably go back to that property and
your
like, you might see it.
interpretation has changed.
You might see it in a whole new light with all the new skills you have.
Yep.
And I don't know how many times, like, I've heard podcasts when I was starting to like kind of take deer hunting quite a bit more seriously. And I was like, ooh, where I hunt out west in the part of the state of Wisconsin, like, I'm going to hunt it this way now, or I'm going to check that part out. I never even considered these things before. I didn't understand half of this shit. And lo and behold, I just get lazy up there and just do the same old thing anyways.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also the big orange blob is out and there's just hunters on every ridge. So like still hunting is not an option out there in my mind without disrupting everyone's hunt. But that kind of stuff is really exciting. There's properties that I haven't hunted for probably 10 years. They're probably just as crowded as they ever were. I don't know that I would say they're more crowded or not. I think land kind of holds people and they come in. It's like having a party.
Yeah.
Some people come in, some people go, some people stay there the whole time, but ultimately like people are cycling through things. And to that point, when you and I hunted the public land out in your area 4 years ago or whatever it was,
mm-hmm.
I saw a whole bunch of bucks and you saw 0.
Yeah.
We were not far from each other.
No, it's just...
We were very close. So the subjectivity or the opinion of like, I saw no deer and I saw a bunch, we're on the same damn property within a football field length of each other. And we had 2 very different types of hunts or experiences.
It's just the cover.
So sometimes you just don't even know. Like, just because you're not seeing something doesn't mean they're not there. Just because you're not seeing signs doesn't. There's all these variables. Deer hunting is really ridiculous. So all you need to do is get a damn drone and they'll tell you everything. But hey, I had the shit out of that thing. Oh my gosh. It wouldn't be as fun if you had full range to go and do that. If they said, "Man, you can use a drone, go figure it out." It's like you get the cheat codes for the game. You type up, down, ABB, whatever, and now you get the whole thing. It does take the fun. It would take the fun out of it, and for that matter, ethics. But it just wouldn't. It's not the same if you don't earn it. I'd rather work for something, and earn it, and then have the reward because of the work I had to put in to get it. If you just get it, that's why I don't like 5 fence hunting. there's a time and a place, and I think a number of people do that, and I'm not going to totally go against them, but it's not for me. I won't say ever, because maybe I'll get paralyzed in my life and maybe I'll be the only thing I can get away with. I'm not sure, but I've never been drawn to a high fence hunt. I've never been into like, I'll pay you money, a whole bunch of it, to stack the odds in my favor to a degree that it's almost guaranteed that I'm going to kill a deer of a caliber I have no business killing on public land. Like, and that's not even private land versus public land. That high fence hunt's a whole different thing altogether.
Right.
And I feel like at some point with all this technology, if it goes unregulated, we'll get to a point where that is possible for more people than not, that you could have a hunt where you're getting something almost every time, or something of a caliber you're really after, because it's just the barrier has been reduced to be so low.
Well, and not to get political, but if things go the wrong way in the near future with things, with policies and getting rid of public land and all that, at some point, that's what it will end up. It will be, you pay to play. If you can afford it, that's what you get to do.
Yeah. Then it becomes a pay to play. Yeah. Mm-hmm. There is a caller. I think it's Daniel. You're live on the show. Can you hear us?
Oh, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Perfect. Good to go. Hopefully our listeners can hear you as well. I imagine they can. We've tested this out too many times, so hopefully it's working. You got an opinion about some of this stuff that you want to share, or questions you got for us?
Yes, I've been kind of listening to, you guys talk about how hunting has changed just kind of due to, woodsmanship. And I heard you talk a lot about how skill sets have changed, over the years, and how that kind of affects how you hunt. But one thing that I really want to point out, and especially on public land, I've lived in Kentucky darn near my entire life. I've been hunting for darn near 3 decades. And the one thing that has changed in recent years, and this really has no bearing on, trail cams and the effect of trail cams, anything like that, but it's the change in hunting culture, I think, that is impacting woodsmanship. And here's what I mean by that. I remember in Kentucky, archery season opens Labor Day weekend every year. And every year for 12 straight years, I hunted the exact same piece of public property, literally darn near in a lot of years, the exact same tree, right? Because opening weekend, I would go in, look for does to try to throw meat in the freezer. And for over a decade, I harvested deer opening weekend every year on the same piece of public. Now, the one thing that allowed me to do that was I would take a kayak the lake, and get to areas on these WMAs where other hunters weren't, right? Nobody's there. They're not going to park up here and hike down into this area that's like 2.5, 3 miles, when it's still 80 degrees outside. And so I would kayak in and was successful for over a decade. Well, I remember in that specific year after what I'm talking about, 12, so the 13th year, I remember kayaking in, and I get over across the lake onto this WMA, and there's another kayak there. And I'm like, oh, that's the first time I've ever seen that, right? That's the first time that I've seen anybody go to that extent. And so I get back there, and I'm hunting, and oddly enough, for the first time in over a decade, I don't see a deer that evening, not a single deer. Well, with that said, I'm getting out just a little bit before daylight. There's a long way to go, so I'm not going to sit until dark. And I hike out, and I make it 60 yards out of my tree, and I hear a whistle. There's another guy in a saddle 60 yards away up in the tree. And so I'll tell you that story just to kind of say this, right, and make this statement. The culture of hunting, and especially on public land, has significantly changed in the last decade and a half, 2 decades, where there are hunters out there that are willing to go the extra mile. There are hunters out there that are willing to go in deep, because that's the rule of thumb now, right? If you want to kill a deer, you're going to get where nobody else is. And I think that when it comes to woodsmanship and the success of deer hunting, I think that's where it's changed, is that more people are going further. More people are taking, I'm not going to say building skill sets quicker, but more people are taking advantage of the options that are out there, such as Onyx, things like that, to drop pins, to go further and try to be successful. And because of that, you have a totally new breed of hunter that comes out of the gate on year 1 or 2 more successful than hunters of the past.
I agree with that.
Yeah, the ability to reduce the learning curve or shorten it because of all the information that's at our fingertips in every medium you can consume it, video, audio, written word, is more accessible than it has ever been. And so people are learning faster. I think there's always been a portion of hunters that were willing to go in deeper and further. I think there just weren't as many of them in contrast to the whole hunting population. I think a greater percentage of them now are doing that type of hunt because it is, which is good also. Like the fact that more people want a sense of adventure and want to go and do things a harder way and put in the work. I think that's a good thing, but it certainly has made there, in my mind, there's no place you're going to go where you're not going to find hunting pressure anymore. Like, good luck.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure. And here's the thing too, is that in Kentucky, for example, I've been using an e-bike now for about 5 years. I've got a Rambo e-bike. I've been using that thing for about 5 years, and it gets me into a lot of these places where, a lot of people wouldn't go, right? Or at least you would think. Well, because of the use of those e-bikes and those types of things that allow people to get to these places easier, there are a significant number of not only states, but just specific WMAs throughout these states that no longer allow the use of even an e-bike. Specifically, there's one WMA that I hunted this year that doesn't allow the use of bikes at all, right? It's by foot travel only. There's no use of e-bikes or even just straight mountain bikes because I have to assume, because it's creating more of an ease of access and increasing hunting pressure that wasn't there before.
That's interesting. I don't know why that's necessarily a problem. You're not emitting any carbon footprint. It's a pretty quiet mode of travel. You're just making yourself a little bit more efficient with your time. Like if it's going to take 5 hours to hike back an area, it's not even that it's really you're a badass for hunting it. Like when are you even going to get back there? How's that even going to work? By the time you get there, it's close to dark. You get an hour of hunting and like, is it worth it? Then you got to drag something out 5 hours. Like most people won't penetrate that deep, but if you have a means to get there, and if it's not through a tributary or a river or a stream or something like that, in a kayak or a canoe, I don't see how a kayak or a canoe is that much different than something like an e-bike. You're just traveling on solid ground, not waterways. And waterways, you're getting in deeper. Like that's been a thing, and that's increased in popularity a whole bunch. There's a bigger market for it because these kayak companies have figured out how to market to people that have other needs other than fishing and just exploring. They're like, oh, let's make it so you can put a deer carcass in this thing and hold your bow. And so, yeah, it's like, it does harken to this sense of adventure of like, I'm going to have an easier drag. I'm going to get deeper. I'm going to have a really, tranquil, time floating down this river, have all this adventure, I think. And then boom, you can make it happen maybe. An e-bike feels very akin to that. And so to say that, I feel like you'd be putting, I don't know, you're dispersing the hunting pressure a little bit more when you have additional means of access.
Yep.
I don't see the argument with the e-bike thing. I don't get it, but I don't know. It's like, let's make this as hard as we can for people. For what reason? Is it because it's impacting the herd in a negative way? I don't know what I don't know.
Yeah. I don't see that being the case.
Yeah, neither do I. Which is why I've always been so concerned as to why, those rules are becoming a thing. And even in a lot of states, because I hunt out west as well, we have states out west that you can use the e-bike, but it has to be less than 750 watts, mm-hmm. right? Is that due to the longevity or the distance that you can go with that, or things like that you have to think about? But I have a 500 watt e-bike that I purchased for that reason, because I want to be able to use it in states like Colorado on an elk hunt, where otherwise, if I bought a 1,000 watt e-bike, that, by the way, is much more expensive. Yeah. And when you buy the 500 watt, it's a little more budget friendly, but I can't use that, $4,000, 1,000 watt e-bike in the state of Colorado because it has to be under 750 watts. So those are things to really consider as well.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, it's a very vast topic that we're talking about, and it's not so controversial that we're going to get people calling in pissed off that we're not debating broadhead types, mechanical versus fixed. I'm not trying to piss people off. I'm just generally curious. So I appreciate the call a bunch. There is another caller behind you, so we'll bring him in next. Is this your first time calling into the show?
For sure. It is, yeah. Yeah, been a long time follower, first time calling in.
Great. It's great to hear from you. Thanks for calling in.
Thank you.
Awesome. Talk to you guys soon. Thanks for having me.
You bet.
Bye.
Next caller is out of Wisconsin. And trying to see a name. The transcription, I don't think got it. Who do we got? You're live on the show.
Oh. Hey, how's it going? This is Jim Watson.
Hey, Jim. How you doing?
Hey, good. I was just calling to let you guys know that I'm tired of Eric being in the state. Every big buck I get on camera, Eric is always shooting all my big deer. Hats off to the OKS Hunter crew. Bunch of killers out there.
Is this... It doesn't sound like any Jim Watson I know.
Shoot.
Really?
Do you know a Jim Watson, Greg?
No, I don't.
Sounds like it, the voice.
No,
the voice sounds familiar. So I wonder. You sound like someone else I know.
Oh, no, sure. But thank you guys for letting us on. We just want to say keep doing it, and we're looking forward to seeing what this next fall has to offer.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate it. That sounded like a work colleague. I'm gonna go cross-reference his phone number and see if that's who I think it was. What an unsuspecting pranking name to use. If your name really is Jim Watson, Jim, I apologize. But if it is who I think it is, I'm gonna just be like, "What the hell?" and just say who you are. What are we doing? See if I get a text here in the next couple minutes.
Too funny.
From someone who their name starts with a C and not a J. Yeah, that was a good question. You didn't think about e-bikes. That's another thing. But
no, I mean,
I don't
it's
see
another
the problem. I also could see a potential argument against them. Like if I'm going to the woods, it's to be still, it's to slow down. Why am I speeding through things? But if I'm trying to freaking get somewhere deeper, I don't know.
A kayak or an e-bike, we're allowed. As long as you're sticking to the trail.
Well, people with kayaks have trolling motors. So then you would say, well, ban the trolling motor then. But you can't.
But do you really want to? Are you going to take that much extra initiative to lug in the battery? I mean, granted,
some guys do.
I mean, there's just plenty different ways to look at this, right? Some guys might, but if it's a narrow little creek that you think a kayak's going to make it easier for you, you're not jacking around with all that.
Yeah. I don't. This is I just don't have like. We're talking about things that aren't necessarily concrete per se, but the AI thing is fascinating because when I stopped to think about it for a second, I was like, it's in apps, it's in cell cams, like the apps, it's in optics. It's starting to, and at some point, all of these things I'm willing to bet are going to become like Tesla, where they're all connected and speaking to a central hub.
Well, I mean, there's trail cameras out there. You can put it into, like Scout Tech, for instance. It'll AI the shit out of all of your inventory of photos that get picked up throughout a season, and it can identify specific deer.
It'll help pick up patterns.
It'll help pick up the pattern of that
deer recognition.
Yeah, there's deer
recognition. Is that Susie or is that Bob?
Right, exactly. So it's all been there for a couple of years now, and it's just getting better.
And at some point, is that bad? Like if we have a better understanding of the herd on our property as a result of it AIing the shit out of something, are you going to have better deer management practices because you have a more holistic understanding of which deer, how many deer, and how they're using your property? If you're getting that intel, maybe you're killing less deer. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe you've decided to hold off for said deer, and you're not going to allow your predatory nature to take over.
I just think at some point, the optics AI, the cell cam AI, the hunting app AI, at some point, all those things are going to be tied together. Someone's going to own the whole damn thing. And it's all going to be interpreted and optimized. And then Pandora really has been just let out of its box. And we're only talking about hunting, which is a laggard industry. It lags behind everything else. So like anything we're seeing has got to be way behind what other like more tech-driven industries are doing. We got Paul Campbell on the line. Paul, you're live. How you been, buddy?
Oh, I miss you guys.
I just saw you. We just got to hang out.
I know. I miss you. I miss all of you.
I miss your musk.
What a topic, man. I pop onto the Instagram Live and I see that. I'm like, oh, I like this.
It's a fascinating topic. What's your point of view on it?
So now, are you talking about the woodsmanship part, or are you talking about? Can you kind of bring me up to speed? I saw it for 30 seconds.
Yeah. I see. Yeah, we've been through a few things. We've been talking about cell cams and apps, and we just talked about e-bikes, which aren't necessarily AI. We did talk about woodsmanship for a little while as it relates to just kind of putting the pieces together yourself and compounding that knowledge over the years to do a better job. But what I was just saying is at some point, all of these things are going to be tied to, I see a future, call it like maybe in the next 5, 10, 15 years. I don't think it's going to take long because this stuff's going to get better, faster, quicker. I think your optics are going to talk to, your trail cams are going to talk to your hunting apps, Onyx, Spartan Forge, all the other ones out there. At some point, they're all going to be connected. You're going to have your major players. You're going to have, your Apples and Androids of the hunting world. It's going to be Onyx versus Spartan Forge, and they're going to have their suite of cell cams. They're going to have their suite of optics and their suite of whatever the hell it is, and it's all going to converge at some point. That's what I think.
Sure. No, I think you're right. I had a doctor one time tell me, he made the comment. He said, we can collect all of the data, all of the information in the world. It's the decisions that we make with that information that's really important. Right. So you can have all of these data points, all this information. And I guess it's like what you do with that and how you apply that to your hunting that, at the end of the day, it's like, it's the most important thing. But it is. I think it's scary. I think it's scary for a lot of us, right? Because it's unknown. I mean, what was it like? How long have we been using the phrase AI, like in actual, like practical terms, not just like stuff you see on a movie? I mean, it's just a couple of years for most of us, And when that comes into something that's intensely personal for people, I think that like the knee-jerk reaction is I don't like it. You know?
Yeah.
And it's like, are we lazy? I have this fight every year with myself, and I don't know if you guys are the same, but every year I'm like, you know what? This is the year I'm not using Onyx because I hunted for 15 years without using a mapping platform, right? Mm-hmm. Greg, how did I get out of the woods? How did I hunt the same areas without a cell phone in my pocket? And now I'm so reliant on dropping a pin at the parking spot, like, letting it get out of me, get me out of the woods, that like the frustration is like, I know that like my skills, like my navigational skills,
they've gotten softer.
They've become weaker over, I mean, I feel like I downloaded Onyx in like 2016, maybe 2017. I don't even remember. But I think of how I hunted in like 2008, and it's night and day different, right? So there is an effect. Am I more efficient at killing? Not because of an app, but I'm definitely more efficient with my time. Which I guess isn't a bad thing. But I don't know, man. It's an interesting conversation, and I think it mirrors a lot of the uncertainty like across just life in general, right? With this technology and these crazy things. So.
Yeah, I think it has to be introspective. At some point, you got to kind of turn it inside and ask yourself these questions. It's really interesting to hold other people to standards that you believe. I don't know the Stoic quote. Of course, there is one probably, but it's about like hold yourself to high standards, not other people. Like don't expect things from other people. Expect it from yourself. And you can't control other people. You can barely control yourself. You can tell me you can convince yourself to go to the gym. Like good luck. So to believe that you can control other people is just completely asinine to me. That being said, how do you think about these things? People form an opinion about it, how they see the world, and then they start to pontificate it and put it out there, and then they get really loud about it. I think it just goes to show, like you actually taught me this, Paul. It just means that they're passionate about it. When you had that viral clip on TikTok about turkeys, people were really like freaking out, and you were like, well, that just means they care about it. And I was like, wow, what a great perspective. So I really enjoy your thought on this topic and how you think through things. And if you think you just need to harden your woodsmanship a little bit, then I was just saying, then keep Onyx off. Go off X for a little bit, I'm
going to die in the woods if I do that, Eric. I can't enter into giant public land in Ohio without OnX, I'd be dead in a matter of hours.
Yeah. Well, I can't get out of the woods in the night anymore. That's a thing. So I don't know what happened to my internal compass, but at night it is not working. I have had several bouts of getting lost at night or turned around. I'm like, man, what happened to me?
Yeah, that's the worst. But I think your point was you can only control what you can control, and the rest of it is just people arguing on the internet, which doesn't change anybody's outcome or opinion, right?
Yeah,
right.
So what you do, you personally, with the information that you collect, that's what's important. Everyone else, I can only have good constructive conversations with people if I want to change it onto my side, not just badmouth them on a chat group or a Instagram message, So I don't know, man. It's interesting. It's going to be neat, to see it unfold, over the next couple of years, and just imagine what our kids are going to have to deal with.
I can't, man. The VR stuff, the Meta glasses, they're just going to be wearing it. They're just going to see AI through sunglasses. There's going to be no more phone, and everything's going to feed into it. Tap the side. Show me my cell cam data. Give me my predictions and my projections for how the deer are going to travel through the area this today, based on the wind, weather, temp, terrain, and get tap into Spartan Forge real quick for me and pull all some information together. It'll just put it in front of your glasses.
Yeah, that's right. That's crazy. I just read this article today. It was there was a group of kids that like high school, from the age of like 14 to 18, that had gotten rid of their smartphones. And there was a 15-year-old kid. He had dropped his phone, broke it, and there was like a delay in getting the shipping. So he went 2 weeks without a smartphone. And at this comment, it just kind of rocked me. He said the first thing that he noticed was how much more time he had in the day.
Oh my gosh, you're right.
How much time? This is a 15-year-old kid teaching me a lesson at 42 that I never thought. And he said once he realized how much time he had back, he had no desire to go back to a smartphone.
That's great.
I'm like, what? Yeah. What?
Our videographer Caleb, his phone broke and he came into Wisconsin with a flip phone. He's like, I lost my phone. I got this flip phone for now. I was like, dude, you have gone back to the Stone Age. How does it feel? He's like, it's actually pretty great.
And you just you think about it. You're like, maybe I should. Maybe I should do it.
It's fascinating. So, I did find the quote, by the way, if you want to hear it before you drop off. It's by Marcus Aurelius.
Yeah, absolutely.
The philosopher king. Sure. And it's be tolerant with others and strict with yourself.
Yeah.
So if you're going to expect things of others, just have some tolerance, but you can be strict with yourself. That's the point.
What a lesson, man.
It's good. It's good
that's
stuff.
Something that's tough for all of us in today's day and age, I guess. So
what a lesson. Thanks for calling, Paul.
For having me on.
Yeah, we'll talk to you soon, buddy.
All right. Yeah, see you guys.
See you.
If you don't know, Paul, I can't talk. Paul is the host of the Turkey Season podcast.
Great podcast.
So they are on the OKS Podcast Network. If you haven't already and you want to learn some history about the turkey in America, it's a really great narrative style podcast about all of that. And with Turkey Season, like the actual season coming soon, it's a great podcast to go tune into. That employee I just mentioned, that coworker, I think is officially on the line. Colton, you're live on the show.
Eric, how are you? Yeah, so another coworker of ours handed us a phone and I panicked, but I actually do have something I would like to say about
it. Was Ethan, wasn't it? Was it Ethan? Did he star 6-7 us?
I don't know. I can't say.
I know it was. He said he was going ice fishing with you, and he has a 608 number. I'm gonna prank call that number tonight at 2 a.m.
Yeah, no, but you guys are kind of talking about opinions on e-bikes and things, and you're kind of talking about woodsmanship with it. And I come from the Ozark Mountains and hunting turkeys, and there was always kind of this pride to me of being the guy that was willing enough to put in the work to walk that extra 2 miles or whatever to where the turkeys had finally settled into roost. And I don't know, you kind of lose that with the whole e-bike thing because, there's some guys that take it pretty seriously and stay in shape and are willing to put in that work to be the guy that makes it there. And then next thing you know, you hear leaves crunching at a rapid pace and here comes a bike right by you. So to me,
you're just jealous. You're just jealous, man. That guy, look at him.
Shoot, Eric.
I'm sweating and this guy just broke.
I don't know.
That's funny. I hear you. There's a pride thing.
Like you should have areas, kind of like there is out west, and you're looking at drive-in areas or walking-only areas for elk. I think that maybe we should adapt something like that for e-bikes. But then to hear your guys' opinion, my question would be, what is your thoughts on electric sights like Garmin makes and things like that, the auto range finding?
We talked about that.
I don't know, maybe I'm old-fashioned, but once again, I kind of think that takes kind of some of that preparation and work that's, just part of the process of the hunt.
For those that don't know, Colton is a Deadeye, and he's a competitive, I don't know if you call it, I don't know what you call it, clay shooter, trap shooter, skeet shooter. I don't know what the technical term is to speak about what you do correctly in that camp. But, and you should probably go guest on the Upduck podcast, but I know you're a hell of an archer also. That being said, we talked about that in the beginning of the show, and I just think it's something that could be a high point of failure. Like if it goes,
right.
If it malfunctions in any capacity, now you're literally dead in the water.
It's one thing if it's on the range, it's a range tool, fine.
Yeah.
But in competitive archery, we'll just use archery as an example, the Garmin sight. But it's just like, anything else. If it can go wrong, it will. And if I went all the way without my e-bike to the back end of this piece of public where nobody else was, and all of a sudden the battery's dead in my Garmin and I have a 150-inch buck standing there, I don't know what to range it at. I don't have my rangefinder. I never paced anything off. What am I going to do? So I think going back to preparation and woodsmanship,
I don't think that's a good product for actually hunting.
It's not a great product in my opinion.
But I don't know.
People do it.
Yeah.
People do it all the time and they have a lot of success with it. But it's just not for me.
Yeah, my thought it's more like paddling up a river. Not paddling up a river. You're taking your trolling motor that's solar powered on a cloudy day, and you're like, well, you didn't bring any paddles or oars with you, and that thing dies. You now you're just stuck out there. Like, what are you gonna do? If that thing fails, you have no backup plan. So I think if you're using it for competitive archery and it works great, and if it's allowed, I'm not even sure what the rules and regs are there. But it would freak me out to have that. I think I'd also be smitten and excited to try it. Like, I'd love to go use it. I think it'd be super cool. I think it's really cool that we've come that far with technology. How awesome. But also I just would prefer something that I know I can depend on without a battery.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And I'm terrible. I'm definitely the guy that always forgets batteries for my headlamps and flashlights and things. So I would definitely agree that I 100% would end up, like you said, with a failure in the woods, and no shot I would have any batteries with me. But yeah, I just kind of want to hear your guys' opinion on that and see. I don't know. Some of the groups I'm in, it seems like it's kind of a controversial topics, and then other guys, and either way, it's fine. But other guys are just tickled to death about them and think they're just like, I guess it is technically the next generation of bow sight, but it's just they can't wait to get one. But I don't know. To me, it just seems like a bit of a shortcut, and I don't know. And
at the end of the day, for me, I don't give a shit what someone else does. Like, if that's what you do, why the hell do I need to care about what you do? You're not taking any food out of my mouth with that stuff. Like, it's just, I don't know. So I also don't have strong opinions on what other people do. Unless it's like inherently bad for the environment or the herd, I don't care. There's enough. I have a very abundant mindset personally. There's enough to go around. If you can kill a deer with that, great. Good job. Like, now you got to go gut it and drag it out of the woods like the rest of us. Good luck doing that on your e-bike, but sounds great.
Awesome. Well, thank you, fellas. And I will have to call in sometime closer to turkey season and talk about something maybe I know a little bit more about. But
there you go.
Anyway, see you at work on Thursday, Eric, and thank you boys for having me.
That sounds good, buddy.
See ya.
I knew it was him.
Yeah.
I knew it. 2 more callers we got on the line, and then we'll probably start to bring her down. I'm going to bring on, we got Andrew Howard next in line. He's called in before. Andrew, looks like you're out of the Madison area. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm down in Janesville, but neither this nor that. Pretty good. Okay. Woodsman-ship. Awesome. Needs to be practiced a little more. I myself started taking trapper safety.
Good for you.
Which
cool.
I'm actually really looking forward to completing. I bought a bunch of traps preemptively. I don't know if that was a good idea or a bad idea, but either way, they're here now.
Have you listened to the OKS Trapper podcast at all yet? Just curious.
I I have not, but I need to follow that and listen to it.
Check it out. Let us know what you think.
It's full of great information.
Yep.
Yeah. I actually do have a Garmin A1, the A1 Pro. And let me tell you what, the lithium batteries in those are outstanding because it uses like the next smaller than like I think it's the next smaller than a AAA, whatever that is.
Okay. Yeah.
But I left it in the truck all winter, lasted through an entire Wisconsin winter. Batteries fired right up next go round. So that's nice, but I've got basically it's like a $1,500 paperweight right now because the pressure switch that activates the sight kind of just went out. So I'm back to hunting like a caveman. Got my spot hog back on, but I think technology is like that double-edged sword, where like if you're not great at a thing, which I'm not saying that I'm not a good archer. I never used one before.
But you could use a handicap sometimes. If you're not a great golfer and you're never going to be a pro, like you probably need a handicap.
Right.
You probably need some things to help you a little bit. And maybe that's
right.
okay. So I think I'm sorry to let you go back on to your point, but that's kind of how I see it.
Yeah, no. Like with the e-bikes, for instance, my uncle got the thing that we don't dare not talk about, and avid hunter, and now basically he is like, if you're worried about people shooting deer, you're not going to be worried about him shooting deer. He can barely make it past the gate. So in order for him to do any purposeful hunting, he needs the assistance of a quad or e-bike or e-trike or whatever's coming next down the pipeline. But like the old style, like the earlier caller was saying, I think it might've been Paul. The old way of doing things, everybody should have a general idea of how to do that first, or strive to know more about that, which I think is something that the newer apps and cameras don't really help you with. Is like it took me forever to figure out like a better, more efficient way to hunt. And it winds up being like one of those trees where it's like, are you hunting today? Yes, no. If yes, go down this trail. Which way is the wind coming out of? East, west, north, or south? And then fucking it splits off and goes other directions, and you're like, oh man, this is getting crazy. But if there was like apps that would like be better at teaching you, like for instance, you guys brought up the app that or the trail camera that like analyze and help you pattern your deer. Mm-hmm. How's there not a thing that's like, okay, this is what the AI is thinking to teach you, so you don't need the AI anymore. You know what I mean? There should be something like that.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, it's very much like when I took accounting in college, which I fucking hated. It was like, well, I don't have to, QuickBooks does all this stuff. Why do I need to do credits and debits? Because you need to understand the fundamentals of how it's getting to these things. You still need to understand the mechanics of it. And I think where people might get frustrated or upset, because when you said this app is telling me to go to this path, not that path, this tree, not that tree, the wind's doing this, not that. I felt something when you said that. I felt viscerally like, you got to be kidding me, right? And I think there's a generation older than us that probably feels that way about most things. Like, go learn something, go figure it out. Right. And the reason I believe we're probably upset about that is that we feel it's detracting from the overall experience that like has the ability to solder things in our mind that is memorable. I was talking to my wife about something yesterday. I said, you know, the only thing I remember about last summer, because everything in life is a blur, is our camping trip when it monsooned on us. And you would think that's a miserable time. It just rained the whole time. We camped. We had 3 kids. It was miserable. It stuck out in all of our memories. Our kids still talk about that camping trip. It was so memorable. It's those indelible moments that are so steeped in like challenge, overcoming, hard work, tough circumstances, where you really like solder a memory into your brain and then you learn something. And I think the upsetness is coming from the fact that we feel as though people aren't getting these really great experiences that we had. But just because we had them doesn't mean that they need to have them. We have people growing up in a different environment, in a different world with different tools at their fingertips. So at some point they'll have the same reaction. Like, well, that's how I learned it. That's how you should learn it. Like at some point that narrative falls on its face. But I do think at some point, we should learn how to make some decisions about reading the wind.
Right.
But also, again, why do I give a shit? Like, why do I need to care what you're doing? Like, I just, at some point, I have to ask myself, why do I need to put energy towards this?
Well, and this is going to be kind of like an offshoot, but when I deployed to Iraq versus the United States, you look at how bad things are in a different place, right? That's a modern day place. It's just absolute dog shit. But our way of life is very fragile, and not to sound conspiratorial, but in a snap of a fingers, we could go from, I don't know, all your apps go down one day, and next thing you know, you're struggling, wandering in the woods in the dark, trying to find that one tree, and trying to remember how exactly to read sign, or you never read sign before, or maybe one day you got to trap a fox to feed your family or something. There's just the value of the old timey ways. I don't think can ever be replaced, even by technology.
It could all collapse. Like the thing that's under the most, the thing that's under most attack is our grid.
Not use it than to need it and not have it.
Yep. Yeah. Our grid is the first thing that'll go. It's the easiest target. And once that happens, bye Wi-Fi, bye internet, bye everything. And we'll be back in the dark ages.
And when the reloading tables are no longer available, you better have a bucket full of range arrows.
Yeah. Yep. Rest assured, I'll be sniping people on my roof. No, thanks for the call, Andrew. We got one other caller behind you. And
you guys have a good night.
Yeah, you
Thank
too.
you,
Appreciate
Andrew.
it. Good to hear from you. And it's good to hear from someone that actually had the Garmin site, because we don't know about it. But he said that it had a pressure
switch in it.
Switch that just
changes on to
it
sense
doesn't work.
change in
That's what I
elevation.
meant. Like now it's just sitting there. So we know who this guy is. Joel, you're live on the podcast. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, how you doing, man?
Doing good. What's up? You made it in the call.
How you doing, Greg?
Good, Joel. Good to hear from you. What's shaking?
Not much. I finally got a chance to listen to it. I'm on a work trip, so I'm out in Michigan right now. So I'm in a hotel room. So I'm like, I got a chance to actually listen to the last of the end of the call. So,
man, I wouldn't have paused my movie to call into this show. Good for you.
Yeah.
Good to hear from you.
Well, I don't get the opportunity. So, Hey, a couple things. I was thinking, because I'm kind of a cheap guy. I don't have a lot of money. So buying those e-bikes is kind of out of the question. But I see a lot of these areas where they're like bike trails and areas where they say no motors, but technically that would be an electric motor. So I kind of have my feelings on that's kind of cheating to get in there with those.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's interesting.
If the area says no motorized vehicles, if they're going to let e-bikes in there, then next thing you know, there's going to be guys with little like 50 or 49 cc dirt bikes running all down in there.
So you're saying it's
hunting.
So you're saying it's a slippery slope.
I completely agree with that one. So the other thing I have is if you got to pay that much money for a bike, I wouldn't want to be set up too far away from that. You're just going to leave it out in the woods and go climb a tree somewhere.
Apparently you wouldn't. Apparently you wouldn't
grabbing that and walking away with it.
I wouldn't worry about you stealing it. You don't want one. Now, if someone gave you one, would you like? That's the other thing too. It's like comes into question. Like, they're expensive, and there's all that stuff, and like maybe it's not. It's a bit gray if you can use it or not. But if someone just said, "Hey, Joel, you won the most expensive Rambo bike on the market with the deer cart trail, the deer cart hitch, and all the fixings on it," like. You might want to find a way to go use that thing all of a sudden. I think people's minds would change if they had the thing free and clear. Like, here,
I would agree with that. I would love to use it, but I don't want to be the guy that's using it where I'm not supposed to be using it.
Yeah, that's true. So, all these things are really... People have weird lines with this stuff because the goalposts can kind of move depending on the situation. And the e-bike things, the fact that if it's no motor, it's no motor. But I think the other gentleman said, like, no bikes at all. And then I'm like, well, why can't I just ride my mountain bike in here? What's the problem? Am I going to kill the grass blades? Like, how is that any different than walking? Am I going to work just as hard, try going up a hill on a bike? It's a pain in the ass. You usually get up and walk it anyways.
Yeah, I would agree. No, that's the thing. I don't even, even if I have a bike and I don't want to necessarily ride that out to the woods, because if I do get a deer, I mean, I'll have to ride back, drop my gear off, and then walk all the way back either way. Or even with like hunting with kayaks and stuff, going up a river, like I don't like to leave my, kayak, because sometimes I won't bring all my gear with me. I'll leave a bag at the kayak. I mean, it's nervous leaving it on public land because there's a lot of people you can't trust.
I had kids messing with my canoe this last season, and I think I probably ruined my hunt because I shouted because I could hear them. And I was like, those fuckers are going to throw that canoe in the water. Like, they sounded like middle school kids that are just bored, looking for shit to mess with. And I'm pretty sure they stumbled upon the canoe, and I could hear them banging around. I was like, dude, we're going to get back to the canoe, and there's not going to be an oar, or it's not going to be there. We're going to see it float down to where we're at right now. So I was like, bye, don't touch my canoe. And then I just saw two blurs running through the woods for their lives. It's pretty great. So that part actually made my day. Deer or no deer, that was a good part of the day. Once I scared the shit out of two teenagers, that was pretty great. Urban Pursuit.
Good that they're outdoors. It's just not good that they're doing that.
I can't say I wouldn't have done the same thing at that age. It's just what boys do. You just mess with, like, they're like raccoons. They're just messing with shit. But Urban Pursuit comment. I didn't realize we were getting comments on Instagram. Someone commented over there. They don't come into the feed that I see here, and they're asking, curious to know how abundant woodsmanship is, or how much of a part of hunter safety it is now. I don't know.
Yeah, it's been many, many years since I've taken hunter safety.
I feel like it's a lot more lacking. I mean, I love the idea of those new sites. I think it'd be kind of cool. I mean, it's no different than when scopes first came out, or when a compound came out versus a regular recurve, know? I mean, they're all advantages that people call cheating, but then here they are using scopes nowadays, and here they are using compounds and crossbows nowadays. But I almost feel like it's great, because now you can have a hunter that's not as educated, or not as not as experienced, and you can still make a good ethical shot now instead of winging it. But at the same time, he's still not learning the fundamentals. He's not putting in the work. So therefore, I kind of feel like he's actually losing out by having this new technology.
Yeah, and therein lies the rub that I can't put my finger on. I can't figure out why we're pissed about that. Mainly because I've gotten to a place in life where I'm not interested in putting my energy into things I can't control. I can't control that person wants to use a crossbow any more than I can control how much bourbon I'm going to drink tonight. And to that end, why do I have to have an opinion about this if it's, I don't know. And so to your point, like, are more deer going to be killed with a crossbow? Yeah, I bet you they will be. Sure. But isn't that the point of hunting, is to kill a fucking deer? Like, aren't we there to kill a deer?
To harvest the game and enjoy the hunt.
Oh, but it needs to be hard. Well, how hard? Like, at what point do we need to go back to a stick and spear and stab the damn thing? There's spectrums here, and there's extremes to the spectrum, and the extremes are interesting. There's middle ground. At one point, it probably does get out of hand.
You use a spear, you're inhumane. You use a crossbow, you're using too much technology.
So we got to just kind of vibrate in the middle somehow.
Everybody gets their.
Well, we all just got to go to like Tim Wells and just start spearing everything and just flocking them,
Right, exactly.
I don't know.
I always see it funny when I used that crossbow for a short period of time because I was hunting.
I looked at you funny.
All the shots I had were within 10 yards, so I didn't have time to draw back on a lot of deer. People are like, well, that's cheating. You're not even handicapped. You don't need that. I'm like, well, you hunt with a rifle, don't you? Say, yeah. You got a scope? Yeah. Well, why don't you go back to iron sights? Because that's cheating. You don't need that. You got good vision. You're not blind. Well, that's different. Well, you take advantage of the times, I mean, wouldn't you want to take advantage of every edge you can get in the woods? But
man, if I had a crossbow and some of the ground hunts, yeah, I'd have some dead deer for sure. But I think to that point, by the way, I think I know what the rub is with the crossbow. It's that it seems as though there's a promotion of shooting at incredibly long distances, because the crossbows that come out advertise that they can shoot 100 yards, like very accurately. It's just as accurate as a rifle. And they're not saying that that's what you should go do. They're just trying to show how great the technology is. But I don't think they're necessarily inherently promoting to go shoot a deer at 100 yards.
No.
Like that's...
Yeah. And I said, you lose a lot of that, the challenge behind it. I mean, you're not trying to make it hard, but you want it to be rewarding. In my opinion, it wasn't as rewarding. So I actually sold mine and went back to the regular compound, just for the fact that to me, it wasn't as much fun with a crossbow.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, the compound is therapeutic for me. But someone just pulling, even just that motion, even if I don't have it on my hand, that right there, some serotonin just got in my brain. Do you feel that, Greg? Right there, boom, feel better. Like I think that there's something to this motion, right? Because we've been doing it for centuries as humans. It's good for you. So there's that. You don't get that motion with a crossbow. It's totally different. And you don't get the haptic feedback with a crossbow like you do with a gun, just in general.
Right.
Good topics. Joel, thanks for calling in, bud. It's good to hear from you. When are you back from your work trip?
Yeah, of course.
Am I going to see you at gymnastics?
Yep. I might.
All right. That's our guy time.
See. I will be back tomorrow. So.
All right. Better not send your wife.
I don't know.
All right.
It's up to my daughter what she wants. So
okay. Well, I know who she's picking.
But you know what? I wear the pants, but she just picks them out and lays them on the bed the night before.
Nice.
Oh, that's good stuff.
Good to hear from you, Joel.
So, yes, here.
Have a good night, buddy.
Have a good one.
Hear from me, Greg.
You betcha.
All righty. Bye.
I hit the button too soon that time. Trying to time it just right. There's a bit of a lag. It was good to hear from Joel.
Yeah.
Good to hear from a whole slew of calls all of a sudden.
People.
Yeah.
It's great. Thanks, everybody, for calling in.
Fun topic.
Yeah. Makes it even more fun.
Yeah. There's a business mentor of mine who's about as expert in AI as anybody that I think is in the country. And he's leading a charge right now called Human First AI. And he's like, if you put the human part first, there's things you're going to want to learn about this stuff and use it to your advantage as best you can. But you can't get over dependent on it. It can't do your job for you. Like, you got to use it in a way that is human first. And there's a whole narrative behind that. Use this stuff. Help yourself out. Spur some ideas. Don't get overly dependent on things. Make sure you're spending time learning woodsmanship because it feels good to do that. It's good for your soul. It's good for... There's a reason we're on this earth and have a need to be outside all the time.
And if the shit hits the fan, you have something to go back to.
Yeah, getting your trapping license, that's something I want to do. I don't know when that'll happen, but I know it will happen. It doesn't take long for me to figure things out once I decide I want to do it. So, yeah, I'll end the show with check out the other shows in the podcast network. We have another new one coming on deck in the next month or two, depending on how long it takes me to work it out with getting everything done. There's a lot of shows on the network. They're a lot of fun. There's lots going on. So, definitely dive in. We talked about trapping and turkey season. We have there's something for everybody. If you're looking to dive into other outdoor topics, check it out. I feel like I had more to say about that. I don't know. That's it. Well, with that, have a good night, everybody. Or good morning or whenever you're listening to this. Appreciate you tuning in. Adios.